Lil Wayne, who, depending on who you talk to, has had a bit of a decline after the Carter 3, has been releasing track after track and making plenty of appearances in the last few months. His latest is a video called Crazy, which is influenced by One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Plus, he's done Grinding and Believe Me, both of those featuring Drake.
And don't forget, what's it called? The alcohol, Duce or Ducey or whatever it's called. That was like
I
that
haven't
song
listened to
after
that one.
Believe Me.
Okay, I missed that one. Or either I heard it and just didn't know it was his track, because that's pretty much how everything goes these days with his stuff. But honestly, some of the tracks that he's done have been really impressive. But there's such a disparity between the Wayne that we were hearing and what we're hearing now, that is it possible that Wayne is going to be making a comeback, and why is that? I'll start off with Joe.
When I watched the video for Crazy, it just seemed like I really like that song, and that's the first Wayne song I can say that I really like since like 2008. It just
Word.
seems like that's not him.
What do you mean?
So I'm thinking there might be Ghostwriters.
Oh, I was
Okay.
gonna say the same thing, man. I was smelling Gilly the Kid all over again, dude. Like,
Yep. It just
Yeah.
seems like, because like how do you go from Carter 4 and Dedication 4 or 5, I can't remember what the last one was. How do you go from being that awful to this good in
Yeah.
such little time?
Yep. And
you
then,
know,
I
I
mean, go ahead, Matt.
I was gonna say, like, listening to Crazy, not only did I like the video, but it did really, in a lot of ways, remind me of Carter 2 shit, where he uses a lot of mosaic rhymes with end rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, there's debate whether or not that was actually written by Wayne, but however you slice it, if you want to call him a rapper, performer, like, I loved that track, and I thought it was classic Wayne style.
Right.
I thought Crazy was the best of the three tracks we listened to today.
That's a big statement. I can definitely understand where you're coming from. Crazy was my least favorite out of all of them, though. Um,
I
the
agree.
video itself was cool. I liked the influence for it, and
Yep.
it was awesome seeing him in such a like high energy. Especially after all the stuff that happened with like the drugs and all, but seeing him bouncing around and everything was really cool to see. But Believe Me is actually the song that I like the most out of the ones that we've listened to between Crazy, Believe Me, and Grinding. But even the first second that I listened to it, number one, it's a Drake song that he gave to Wayne for sure, as far as like where it was probably going to be placed. And two, his verse sounded exactly like Drake. Cadence,
Every
content, like
it's
everything.
every song's Drake featuring Drake. Drake even said it.
Yeah, like literally, like I think that when he said that, he meant that in a little bit of a different way that we don't understand until right now. Like I definitely think he wrote that for Wayne, and like I'm not sure if I'm 100% okay with that, because it's on one hand it's cool to have Wayne back, but on another, why does he have to be back? Why do they need these potential ghostwriters to put him back in that level of infamy that he once had before?
Well, it's the same thing with Snoop Dogg, because Snoop, I mean, we used to like Snoop's music, and then he came out and said that he was going to use Ghostwriters, like I think it was like 2008 or 2009 or something, and that's where his music started falling off like hardcore.
Yeah, it's nuts. What about you, Gary? How do you feel?
What about the Ghost Rise or about the songs in general?
Songs first.
Okay. The song's Crazy is I mean it was my least favorite of the three songs, but conceptually it makes sense. Like I think it will catch on to the mainstream and everything. And the video is really good. It was really well done. So I think that will definitely help sell the project a little bit. Grinding was a nice track. I can, imagine it being played on the radio and in clubs and everything. The ladies would probably like it. And of
Word.
course, Believe Me as well, you know, because Drake's on there and everything. And like you said, it does sound like a Drake record. I actually thought it was, you know, when I started listening to it. But yeah, I think I like Believe Me the most out of the three.
Word up.
Um,
Word up.
Can we talk about grinding and how how that's Young Thug being Little
yeah,
Wayne?
Ugh,
Yeah,
I hated
yeah.
that
I mean
track.
that feeds right back into the whole ghostwriting theory because like Joe mentioned that to me right before I started listening to it, and I immediately heard Young Thug like as soon as it came on. I'm like, you
Thugger!
gotta be kidding me. Yeah, it was legit. Like it was unashamed. Like there was just straight up emulation, or he wrote it himself.
Somebody, well, we gotta mention what I told you too, because I saw that on Twitter, and I can't remember who tweeted it, but somebody said that Wayne sounded like Young Thug, sounded like Little Wayne, and it was flowception.
That's true. That is exactly true. But I wanted to hear Gary's perspective on the ghostwriting side of things.
it's always upsetting when, you know, one of your favorite rappers or a rapper that's putting a lot of work into the game starts getting lazy and using ghostwriters. It's happened quite a lot, and it probably happens more than we even know, to be honest. But that's kind of sad because, you know, you look up to these people and you really want their energy, their creativity when you're, you know, buying into their project. You know, you want to hear them, but you know that's the way the business works. You know, as they get bigger and bigger, they probably don't even have as much time to really get into that creative process anymore. So hey, this guy's hot, this young thug guy is hot, you know, at the moment. Why don't we just get him to produce a track for, you know, the record? So that's probably how they look at it. You know, it's all business at this point.
Yeah,
Well, you know the other thing I was just thinking about because Gary mentioned about the getting the hot artists. Wayne has such like a historic category or catalog, I should say, that he was running out of things to rap about. And if you hire ghostwriters, you're not running out of your own ideas and own things to write about.
Yeah.
That's fair. I kind of
that's
wanted
true.
to chime in on this a little bit.
Good.
You know, as a fan, it's probably, you know, it's always kind of disappointing to hear somebody that you consider genuine using ghostwriters. But from an industry standpoint and from a writer's perspective, it's not always a bad thing because it does give a chance for some of these faces and people that you don't know who are equally as talented as the marquee artists. It gives them a chance to actually use their creativity, write songs, and, you know, create things for the industry. Yes, it does come off a little bit disingenuous because you do assume that the person singing, you know, rapping the song is the writer of the song, but it's not necessarily a bad thing from a creativity standpoint.
True that.
Yeah, and this is something that happens in other genres, you know, very openly. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, people write songs for each other. Like, it's not always the actual artist writing the song. You know, they take songs from each other. But
Like that's 90% of R&B music is somebody else
Nashville.
writing.
exactly.
I mean,
Oh,
Nashville,
yeah.
like there's a joke in the industry. The only place you can still sell a song is Nashville.
Yeah.
Because every other genre, you know, from indie rock to rap, really the fan base wants their artists to be genuine. They want the same people performing. They don't want performers. They want artists. They want the same people performing, being the same people that actually write the material. That's not necessarily the expectation in R&B music and in country music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
that's definitely true.
I think a big reason why it's like that with hip hop is because of, you know, the way it started, you know, the grind and everything. You know, you start out, you know, really putting in the work yourself, you know, but as things got more business orientated, you know, it all changed and, you know, the business aspects came into hip hop, and that's why, you know, we're still going through transitions there where, you know, a lot of these things are coming into play that we see in other genres. So
I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, go
I
ahead
was
because
gonna say,
the next thing will change it up a little bit.
I think part of it, the reason that you see, especially in rock music, indie rock music, and hip hop music, why that's the case is partly because most of the people that come out of indie rock music and hip hop music are untrained musicians. They're regular people like you and I that start in their garage. They don't have songwriters. The expectation is completely different because they're grinding all the way from the bottom to the top. And since hip hop started out as a grind from the bottom to the top for the most part, we still have that expectation. But I feel like that's going to change in the next decade.
You think it'll change?
I think it'll change. I think as more and more people do it, it's gonna, and more people do it openly. Like if you look at country music in the 1950s, it was not really acceptable to use ghostwriters. Most of those guys wrote their own material and were required to write their own material. As the industry and the genre changed and it became more accepted and more common practice, eventually people just forgot about, not necessarily forgot about the artists themselves, but forgot about the fact that they required that. So as the listener base becomes more accepted to it, I think it'll be more accepted in the industry itself.
Well, to bounce off of that, to switch perspective up a little bit, I know that there are going to be like some lesser guys that get an opportunity, to write for someone like Wayne that normally wouldn't have their style or the words that they want to put out there or the beats or whatever to hit this stage. And it's obviously a benefit to them. But say, for instance, that Young Thug really did write that verse for Wayne. Do you think that an artist like him, who's kind of in his prime as far as where his reach right now, do you think that type of thing is stifling for a young artist's career? I will ask Matt first.
I guess it depends on how well the track does, huh? Like
That's true.
If the track ends up doing really well and going iTunes #1 and the record goes platinum, it's not gonna it's gonna help. Like people are gonna know this guy wrote that track. They're gonna know that he also makes music, and it's gonna help his career. On the flip side of that, if the track flops, it's not well received, the record doesn't sell, it'll end up being a stifle. It'll be a pitfall, a trip. Either way, the effect on the artist depends on how the track is received and how the track does.
What do you think, Joe?
I think from as a creativity standpoint, it kind of stifles a young artist because they're generating their best material right now, and then once they get to their solo stuff that the mass media and the mainstream will pick up and start listening to because of their past, it leaves a little bit of a little less of their creativity because they've already started using some of it and giving their ideas away and stuff. It's like an athlete blowing out his ACL in high school and then trying to play in college, or trying to, he blows it out in college and tries to transition to the pros. It's not going to be the same as he was, as this big star.
Yeah, I agree. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, I definitely think it will help the artist. It'll give them a boost, like behind the scenes with business and everything. Because I kind of feel like this happens a lot. And say that there's this Young Thug artist he's got a little buzz right now, but he writes this song for Wayne. Not everybody's supposed to know that he wrote it, but if you're an insider, you probably know. So once people catch wind of that, that artist is going to be in more demand, from behind the scenes and, even in the mainstream, because then people, who listen to the music will associate the sound, with that artist as well. They'll be like, oh, he sounds like this guy. So I think it does benefit the artist.
And the perfect example of that is Ty Dolla $ign writing Chris Brown's Loyal, because Chris Brown didn't even bother to switch up any of the flow or anything, and now Ty Dolla $ign's starting to get more out into the mainstream.
Yeah.
Another one, Kanye West, is really open in the fact that he says part of his career success is for ghostwriting beats.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like Gary said, even if the public doesn't know about it and isn't supposed to know about it, if you're an industry insider, you most certainly do. And that's going to affect your career. We might not have a Kanye if it wasn't for the fact that he ghost wrote a lot of beats back in the 90s.